All right, let's talk about our lost decade that we've had here in Canada in terms of our GDP. So I see that we've got USA highlighted here with their, clear on that, 18.2% growth from Q1 of 2015 to Q3 of 2024, and then come on down the list here, and here we are, Canada at 1.4%. Now, I don't think that this is, Matt, this isn't meant to be a political show in any way, but what we do want to lay out is the information about what our governments are doing and how policy is going to impact us as citizens. And so I think it's important to take a look at these from time to time and see, like, okay, what decisions were made in the last 10 years that led to this? And if we're going to stay with the party that has been in power during that time, what are they changing that's going to turn this around? And if you're looking at the other guys, what are they going to do differently that's going to turn this around? Because over the next 10 years, we need this number to change. It has to get going in the right direction. We can't be below all these other nations. And so when you're going to the polls in a month from now, you need to make sure that you're considering that. And our goal is to bring you a lot of that information to hopefully help you make an educated decision.
Yeah, and in the next slide, we kind of highlight the contributing factors to why we're seeing such a low number there. We've had this massive population growth, but we're not getting the metrics from that for the increased productivity. So we're bringing all these people in, but the productivity levels aren't getting any better.
Yep.
So that's keeping the number low. Business investment, we're not seeing enough business investment in R&D and ensuring that we're increasing productivity through innovation, technology. We have a lot of unions in Canada, and that can sometimes stifle productivity levels as well, as because they try and keep as many people employed at their jobs, and innovation just takes a lot longer in those types of unionized work to get in there. And one of the biggest employers we've seen in Canada since 2015 has been the federal government. And for the most part, a lot of those individuals are unionized workers, and they've got strong unions, and they ensure that their people the jobs are protected. But sometimes it is at the cost of increasing the productivity, and then also, your infrastructure and your housing constraints. We had such a rapid population growth, and we were just unable to keep up with that in terms of building new homes. So that really skyrocketed our housing prices, but also our rents that a lot of people rely on, a stable rent, but you can't have that when you have such an influx of individuals and not enough places for them to rent.
In our world, Matt, where we're helping clients both on the investor side, but specifically on the end user side that are in the rental market, it's a painful conversation where people used to have rent for $1,800, $2,000 a month for a family home, and that was manageable. And now a lot of those homes are $3,500 and more. And you see it on Facebook groups. We see it in our business where people are saying, like, my landlord's decided to sell now, and I got to go find a new place to rent. And my rent has more than doubled from what I'm paying now, or what I had been paying for the last 8 years. And a lot of this contributes to that. And so it's just one of those things. Like, until we get our housing supply sorted out, that is going to continue to impact Canadians. And I think at the end of the day, housing affordability to be able to purchase something is very important. That's a prime topic. But if we can't get rents under control either, and just having a place to live, period, is becoming unsustainable or unmanageable, that has to change. That can't be something that we're okay with as a country.
And I think the change comes from purpose-built rentals. That, we had rent controls in place. So you saw large corporations pivot from building purpose-built rentals, and then all of a sudden it was the condo market that started to take on that extra slack in the market. We saw a lot of mom and pop investors take over the rental market.
Yes.
And there was a massive speculation in that, because for the corporations, if they could only increase their rents at 2%, they understand that inflation is actually more than that. Just because the government comes out and says 2% doesn't mean so. So there was a massive shift away from that. And then Doug Ford got into power, and he said anything after 2018 won't have rent controls. And what we've seen is a massive increase in purpose-built rentals. But they've taken their time to get to market, and we're starting to see them really
we're just starting
pile into the market now. Yeah. And when we look at the rental stats later on, we're going to start to see that the prices are coming down because the inventory is starting to rise. And I'm hoping that we see more purpose-built rentals come in so that there's less mom and pop speculation in the housing market, which might actually help stabilize prices long term this way.
Yeah, and you're talking about resale prices now, not just rental prices, but that should stabilize with less speculation in there.
That's the thing, right? If you've got the average individual speculating on real estate because rent prices just keep escalating because of what low supply that we have in the market, if that can change, then the speculation part will hopefully adjust to the downside.
Well, and as interest rates have risen, we've seen that pullback just naturally because of carrying costs, right? It's been so much harder for these investors to carry those properties, and rents can't keep up with them. Just the nature of the way our landlord-tenant board and protections go, that you can't increase that quickly in a lot of cases, as well as even for the ones that aren't rent controlled, you're not going to find a tenant that wants to pay enough that covers the mortgage with those high interest rates.
Yeah, and I also think that the issues that we had at the landlord-tenant board over the pandemic were mostly caused by landlords that just didn't understand the rules, and both parties battled over that. Number one. Number two, there was individuals that just couldn't pay because of their job situation or that, and that had a factor in that as well. But if you're a massive landlord, you do this on a daily basis. You're dealing with tenants on a daily basis. It's a little, they know the rules. Both people know the rules, and so I think that had a big impact on it as well. But also too, when you go lower bound on interest rates, people are going to speculate in real estate because they understand that when you go lower bound, prices are going to accelerate just because of how cheap money is to borrow.
Yeah, great point. I love that you bookended that.